Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for. We're just kind of breaking down some of the stuff that's happened the last 2 weeks when we've been off. Doc was out dominating the Polk County Republican field, and I was being dominated by my day job. So that's why we. It was a good 2 weeks, though. It made me actually miss you a little bit.
Oh my God, we're not picking out curtains again.
Well, if you would go with the pattern that I wanted, it wouldn't have been such an ordeal, and I wouldn't have thrown such a fit.
I wanted the big rainbow pattern. I'm sorry you wanted Paisley.
Paisley works with everything. No, so this is something I've been since it happened. I want to know what you think about this Taiwan thing, because I do take the point. I think it's I think that it's political backtracking, but I do take the point that president-elects get calls from people, and that there's all this hyperventilation about what he does and what he tweets and all the rest of this stuff. I think that's all important to talk about, but I don't think that. But it did legitimately make China angry, and we really can't afford, from a foreign policy perspective, going into the next 50 years, to have China angry at us. And the response to hey, you can't just talk to Taiwan. We have this policy that we negotiated, all these principles and stuff. And his response was, "Well, quit being a currency manipulator and dumping your steel." Just like, oh man, I don't know.
Well, hold on. As far as a foreign policy, I agree. We haven't had contact with Taiwan and the rest of it. A democratically elected government. And part of the problem that I have with the left is the idea that communism is okay. Communism is never okay. You have to have complete government control to make it work effectively, and you have to have nice little happy, or not even happy, you just have to have worker drones. And I don't see a problem with reaching out to other democracies around the world. Now, China is a different case. They're there for a while. They were the world's largest economy, and then they kind of stumbled and tanked like we did, and we're now back to being number one. And the problem really with the Chinese is, one, they can't match us militarily. Number two, they really can't match us economically. And three, they hold a lot of our debt. And if we don't pay that debt, they're in some real trouble. So they have to walk just as fine of a line with us as we do with them. Now, the second thing is, I have it on pretty good authority that this call with Taiwan was set up long in advance in anticipation of Trump winning the presidency. And it doesn't necessarily signal a shift in our policy, but you have to keep in mind that China likes to be in control of things around China. And it particularly likes to be in control of Taiwan. So anything that disrupts that.
They fought a whole war over it.
They did. They fought a whole war over it. But the problem is Taiwan is still a democratically elected government. We should be friendly with democratically elected governments. And what is strange is that we are closer to China, who's a communist nation, than we are, say, India, which is democratically elected, or South Africa, which is democratically elected, or, frankly, a lot of the Eastern Bloc. Now, that's because of our economic ties. The other thing is the Chinese and the Russians both always go, oh my God, look at what the Americans do, and make a big deal out of it to solidify their support at home. In part, that's what's going on. And even the Chinese today, on Flipboard anyway, did say that they understand it was not a change in policy, but it was offensive to them that we would dare talk to somebody they've told us not to talk to.
Well, and we also have one president at a time.
Yeah, that's true.
There was also a poke, I think, at the outgoing administration, which George W. Bush had the grace not to do, and George H.W. Bush had the grace not to do. It just, you've got the main issue here is, and this is something that's been on the books for a long time, and it seemed that he either didn't get it or didn't care. what the fallout would look like, whether it's a shift or not. Of course, not a shift. He doesn't have any power yet, but you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And both of those are problematic. Both of those are intensely problematic, and that kind of defines everything that he's been saying and doing for the last 6 weeks. Either he doesn't get it or doesn't care.
Well, what kills me is Democrats don't care about foreign policy until a Republican does it.
That's completely untrue.
Well, here's where we've essentially given away the world to China and Russia, and in some cases India, and the Democrats haven't said anything about, well, geez, that's bad. We get a guy in there that says, oh, hold on, I don't think we should be beholden to Russia or to China or to India or Mexico, and suddenly it's a foreign policy crisis. This is no different than anything else that goes on over with these communist countries. If you don't do what they want you to do immediately, then you're the bad guy, you're crucified and everything else. Number two, like you said, this isn't a shift in policy. Trump said it's not a shift in policy. Three, when, we're going from a president whose foreign policy was ranged from thoughtful, if you want to give him benefit of the doubt, to completely unprepared. And the problem is there are people advising Trump that we both know that are excellent in foreign policy. And I think that Trump is crazy like a fox. And, even though this is probably not the thing he should have done, because I do agree with you that it's a poke in the eye to Obama. I agree with you. And whether it's a classless act or not, I can't go that far, but it is a poke. And I do think that, calling the president of Taiwan to have a brief conversation is not something that's going to lead us to World War III or, economic retaliation. It's going to poison a well. Because you have to keep in mind, the Chinese don't think in 50 years like we do. They think in 5,000 years. And that's their general mindset. So we're going to take a break. We're going to be back right after this. Thanks for tuning in. We couldn't do what we do without you. And we will be making that announcement, I promise,